Chacha Eke finally openly talk about her health and marriage.
I was lost in a suit with my husband.
My correct people them Nollywood actress Chacha Eke don't come out and talk about many things where we be never hear before. Even people for the crowd, and so their mouth just open. Wow. She also talk about her marriage. And she also told say she and her husband, they don't come back together. So many people come, they tell say, so she don't go back to this her husband. She don't go back to this her husband. Now me I come, they tell say, make she no go back to the husband. All this story and all these things which they tell us say they shele. If she not get strong person by her side, you go right though. Una go help am. Anyway, I don't want to talk much for this video because this video is already long. There's going to be another one where we go do fans reaction and waiting some medical personnel come talk about her condition. Some say this one no be bipolar disorder. Say don't go beyond bipolar. No be say don't go beyond. They call another medical this thing. A name for the sickness. Say no bipolar, no they do this, no they do that. All that one we go look into around for the next video. But for this video, we gonna watch the video, we gonna hear all waiting share between the bipolar and her marriage.
But the expensive treasure that I still have is my husband and my children. But trust bipolar to make a mess of my most treasured possessions. If you're bipolar, when you're having an episode, your favorite things, your favorite people become your worst enemies, your worst things. It's two poles. It shifts from this pole to that pole, and it will stay there for a long time. Just allow me to come back. I'll be taking my medicine. I promise. And then he said to me, that's just the point I wanted you to get. Because what is happening to you has happened to many people. It's happening to many people. So you don't let it ruin you. To me, the moment I realized that bipolar makes me unstable in my moods and in my dealings with people, I began to make conscious efforts to be a better person. And that was the worst thing you could do to me then. If you say, I could fight you. Because what do you mean? What ogo? Insult yourself there. On and on it went. I came back and they bundled me yet again to the hospital. This time, Dr. Val's hospital. What's the name again? Ken Crest Hospital. That's the fourth hospital now. One hospital after the other. And it's not like our bills were ever cheap. It's designer sickness, yo. Our bills used to be 700,000, 800,000. And it's not just the pills. The pills are not even that expensive. It's the aftercare, the psychotherapy that they used to give me that I was still combating. I shaved my children's hair. Anybody that knows me here on social media know my children. They are my greatest asset alongside this man. If you know me on social media, you've never seen me in a private jet. I don't have a Wrangler. I don't have those expensive cars. I steal money. Nobody was pushing me, but I felt like somebody's trying to kill me. Hallucinations, delusions. Because I love my husband and my 4 children at home, including a 1-year-old. But then I suddenly remembered home and I felt like, okay, the reason I ran is because this man here, I was convinced in my head that he wanted to use me to do rituals. The nature of my work doesn't support the sickness that I have. I make pretense for a living. People pay me to be pretending to be who I am not. And I've done it for over a decade plus. So I'm a guru at it. But all that pretense began to backfire on me because I began to lose myself in the midst of it all. Characters that I do not recognize were now jumping out of me. I'd come on social media and write nonsense. And resumed work. The stress of the work began to jam my brain again. I had yet another episode. Just like in 2020, I had another episode in 2021. I had that episode in 2020. Every year there's always episodes. Hypomanic and manic. This particular episode, I burnt all our wedding photos, all our vital business documents. all our clothes. We had no clothes again. It's what I do. I did that. The last manic that I eventually wandered off. On the streets, many are raving mad, naked. But there are people who are not naked yet, but they are. This particular manic, between April, May, June, July, of course, I burnt clothes, destroyed things, but I wandered off. 4 a.m. in the morning, my family were asleep, and I wore my clothes. I sneaked out of the house. Immediately across the gate, I take off. I was one suspicion after another, on false accusation after another. I survived the Ritz, but I had yet another maniac episode in 2020 here in Delta State, Asaba. I was on the laptop writing script after script. Writing is my hobby. My husband was on his way to Lagos to sign a contract with our company, between our company and yet another production company. And before I could realize what was going on with me, I went mad again. And I began to do things around the house. I broke televisions, chandelier lights. I burnt all my clothes and my children's clothes. Just like I did in Enugu, I reduced everything that we owned to trash. And no, it didn't take one day. It was 3 to 4 days intense. On the 4th day, I didn't eat at all. I was only drinking water. I felt I had superpowers. I felt I was receiving a message from the divine. Or I felt like somebody was manipulating me, because there was 2 entities all of a sudden. There was me watching. And that news came accompanied by yet another news that I found very impressive. All of a sudden, they said I was pregnant. We weren't expecting a baby, but I love babies. So I was like, yeah. I can't get away. I don't know what you're saying, bipolar, what? And so when they gave me drugs to take, when I went home, I was flushing the drugs down the toilet. I had a friend, I still have a friend in the US, who bought me pills worth thousands of dollars. It was a 6-month supply for the disorder. But my head didn't agree with that news. So I called her and said, I won't take them. The Lord told me in my sleep that those drugs are not for me. I'm fine. And then I now attached pregnancy without my pills. But I never stopped going mad. Only this time it was small madness. But then, when I had my baby, I couldn't stop that me in action. They had to bound me hands and legs to the hospital. And then I was still, just like in the movies. It was now at the hospital, American hospital here in Asaba, that Dr. Isioma Okoba, alongside a psychiatrist, Dr. Nebe, diagnosed me of bipolar disorder. I had heard that name in the movie, but because I'm an actor, that name seemed fictitious. It felt like a name that they had to come up with to buttress a character or a characterization. I didn't take that news pleasantly, because it was not a pleasant news. Because what do you mean? Do you know who I am?
Chacha.
I am way too beautiful. Way too talented. Way too brilliant to have what they call in my area a little bit of scoring.
The Ritz Hotel, Enugu, New Haven. I was lodged in a suite with my husband and my 2 children at that time. And then one day, it happened. I went mad. Later on, I discovered this whole maniac episode, but just like in the movies, I went bonkers, crazy. I began to throw away every of our belongings, clothes, shoes, bags, the children's toys, and vandalized the hotel properties. The suite in the parlor area had 3 large cushions. I ripped it all apart using a tiny knife. It was nothing but madness. That madness was contained in just that room by my husband, who was wearing only the clothes that he had on when I was trying to wear everything. Same goes for my children. That incident was so intense that what I needed was a trip to the hospital. But I didn't go to the hospital because my husband and I, who is seated here with me, support me. We attributed it to demonic attack, voodoo, marine spirits, somebody or somewhere Now, Bola,